Hello YouTube, how are you? My name's Jude and welcome back to my channel. Sorry about a little bit of a later upload this week. I have been quite busy with my job and yeah, I was able to actually get a raise today, so that's a bonus, but yeah, I've been very busy working. Um, we'll go over last week's card. I did not do very well, but I kind of anticipated that, to be honest. Those prelims were pretty rough and hard to predict. I should not have switched my Rodrigo Vera pick. Vera went out there and smoked Kang Zhu. I don't know what I was doing there. Ming Yang Zhang really disappointed me, and I'll probably never pick him to win again unless they give him someone really bad. Loma, that was like, I knew that was a possibility for Loma. I just didn't think it would happen. And then Angela Hill went out there and beat Jingnan Zhang, and Meng Ding could have arguably won this fight, but they didn't give it to him. So it is what it is. We're 52 on Tapology now, so the worst I've been in a while. Hopefully we'll bounce back, but again, not super confident. I'm not hung up on my Tapology ranking either. It was just cool that I was so highly ranked for a while. But I guess if anything, we're still in the top 60, in the top 100, top 60, whatever you want to say. I just yeah, we're gonna try and bounce back. We're just gonna keep making videos, keep trusting my reads, and hopefully switching my picks around a little less. But I forgot to mention that I did change my read on Luis Garul, and I ended up picking Ray Saruya to win that fight, and yeah, that one paid off. So switched that one, switched the Rodrigo Vera one. It kind of cancels out. But we're here with UFC Fight Night, Muhammad versus Bonfim, and yeah, this is UFC Vegas 118, and this is honestly a stacked Apex card. I'm very excited for this Apex card, and yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting, good matchups and good fighters on this card. But the first two fights do not necessarily reflect that. Um, and we're gonna open up the card with Ketlin Souza versus Ariane Carnelosi, and yeah, Ketlin Souza here is a decent sized favorite. She's coming off a win over Bruna Bazil, but before that, she lost a close decision to Piera Rodriguez and a close decision to Angela Hill. And then on the other side, we have Ariane Carnelosi, who I I have never thought is very good. She 4 years ago was her third most recent fight, where she got dominated by Lupita Godinez, and then she was losing this fight to Piera Rodriguez, and then Piera Rodriguez headbutt her and got disqualified, and then she lost this one to Talita Alencar. I just think Kellen Souza is a much better fighter. I think she's better on the feet, and then probably honestly better on the ground as well. Pretty much all that Carnelosi has going for her is she's built like a ball of muscle, but Ketlin Souza is a much more well-rounded fighter, and I can honestly see her getting a finish in this one, but I'm not going to pick that to happen. I'm going to pick Ketlin Souza by decision. Um, don't need to spend too much time on it. I think it's pretty straightforward. Ketlin Souza has just shown more. She's definitely better on the feet, and like I said, I think she's better pretty much in all aspects of the game. Next fight on the card, we have another women's fight. This one is Jaisla Chavez versus Unessi Dubin. And um, I really don't think Unessi Dubin's very good. She obviously got that win on Dana White's Contender Series over Shannon Clark. That was very impressive. She was a huge underdog in that fight, and she absolutely starched Shannon Clark with an overhand. And now Shannon Clark's in the PFL or whatever, but I'm just not really impressed with anything that Unessi Dubin's done besides that. And you can say the same on the Jaisla Chavez side, but we'll get there in a second. But she looked really, really bad in her debut against Carly Judice, and Judice made very quick work of her and was able to finish her in, I think, maybe 2 minutes. And then on the other side, we have Jaisla Chavez, who fought absolute nobodies on the regional scene, and then had a very close fight on Dana White's Contender Series versus Sofia Montenegro. But I would pick Sofia Montenegro to beat Unessi Dubin. Both of them got signed, and yeah, I think this is KO or bust for Eunice Dubin, and it's hard to trust women's fighters who are KO or bust because most of the time um, that KO will not happen, and if it doesn't, they're in a lot of trouble. I'm picking Jaisla Chavez to win this one, maybe by decision, but also maybe by finish. I don't know. It's women's MMA, so we're gonna lean decision. Next fight on the card, we have a fighter who I really like, and Joe Anderson Brito versus Jordan Levitt. And um, this one's a bit tricky. I think the odds are rightfully pretty close. I think that they're correct though. I think that Joe Anderson Brito um, on paper should win this fight, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot. On paper doesn't mean much when it comes to fighting, you know. But in his last five, he's 3-2, arguably 4-1. If you want to give him that William Gomez decision, a lot of people did at the time, but he got this win by defensive submission with a ninja choke against Jonathan Pierce after Pierce was taking him down and talking shit to him on top. He got the ninja choke and kind of shut Jonathan Pierce up. Then after that, um, he was able to finish Jack Shore with a cut on his leg because he was just attacking the leg at UFC 301. I remember this fight. It was a great fight, or not even a great fight, but a very impressive and violent performance from Joe Anderson Brito over Jack Shore, who at the time was a bit hyped up. Jack Shore is pretty good. Um, then obviously the close split decision to William Gomez that I thought he won at the time of watching, and a lot of other people did as well. This fight with Pat Sabatini was very, very disappointing because Sabatini just took him down and laid on him. Basically, Pat Sabatini did like no damage in this fight, but he had a lot of control, and that's what scares me in this Jordan Levitt matchup. Obviously, since then he went and got a win over Isaac Thompson in Isaac Thompson's short notice debut. But I actually think Isaac Thompson is pretty good prospect, and Isaac Thompson's actually the last guy to beat Lorian Douglas. So Isaac Thompson's not a slouch by any means, and again, Isaac Thompson was able to take Brito down, I think, 4 times, but Brito actually used a lot of offensive wrestling himself in this fight and had 8 takedowns on Isaac Thompson and I believe more control. And he was able to win that fight pretty clearly, won round 2 and 3, and get back in the win column. And he is fighting Jordan Levitt, who recently moved down to 145 after being a career 155er. Um, his losses often come by submission, which is strange because that's how most of his wins come as well. But he got submitted by Paddy Pimblett, went and got a win over Victor Martinez, who's one of the worst fighters that the UFC's ever signed. Um, got submitted by Chase Hooper, which we know now isn't a very great look. Then he was able to get an impressive quick submission over Kurt Holoba, and then he won a decision over the fraudulent Yadier Del Val. Um, yeah, Jordan Levitt definitely has a path to victory in this fight, but he's going to have to find takedowns frequently and keep control. And I maybe I'm underrating Jordan Levitt, but I just don't think that he possesses the skills required to do that. I don't think he's anywhere near as good or persistent or control based of a grappler that Pat Sabatini is. And he might not have to be to get a decision win here, but I think for every moment that this fight's on the feet, Joe Anderson Brito is going to put a lot of fear in Jordan Levitt because Joe Anderson Brito, like I said, is one of the most violent strikers, definitely at featherweight. And I think you could make an argument that he's one of the more violent strikers in the UFC as a whole. Joe Anderson Brito actually has a win over Diego Lopez on the Contender Series. A lot of you probably know that. It's not like a crazy lore drop, but Joe Anderson Brito, I see him getting this one done. Joe Anderson Brito is due for a finish, and I think he's going to knock out Jordan Levitt at some point in this fight. I'm going to pick round 1, honestly, because a lot of the time when Brito's getting it done, he gets it done early. Or Jordan Levitt could potentially bank a round of control, and then Brito knocks him out. But Brito Brito is not a guy who really gasses out or has issues with his cardio, and he's also a guy that's shown to improve in his wrestling. Um, so I like Anderson Brito here to defend the takedowns, keep this one on the feet, tear up the legs of Jordan Levitt, and eventually find a finish with violent, nasty strikes. Like if you watch Joe Anderson Brito versus Chepe Mariscal, that one was on the regional scene in LFA, but that was a brutal knockout. And then the Andre Fili knockout as well in 41 seconds, very impressive. I like Joe Anderson Brito here, but I can see an argument for Jordan Levitt for sure. Next fight on the card, we have Chelsea Chandler versus Priscilla Cachoeira, and this is a terrible, terrible fight in the UFC. Um, I don't know why 71% of people are picking Priscilla Cachoeira. I think if you are going to pick Cachoeira, it has to be by knockout because she really doesn't have any of a ground game at all. And she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. And the Tapology community has seen that and been like, yeah, let's pick her 71% of the time. She got submitted by Miranda Maverick, submitted by Jasmine Jasdavicius. She got a nice knockout win here over Josiane Nunes. This one was pretty brutal. She landed an uppercut in the pocket and knocked out Josiane Nunes. But since then, she's again found herself on a 2-fight losing streak. Got absolutely picked apart and knocked out by Jocelyn Edwards in half a round. And then she lost soundly to Claudia Segula after that. And then Chelsea Chandler isn't her recent fights haven't been super impressive either by any means. Got a win over Julia Stolyarenko about 3.5 years ago. Lost to Norma Dumont, but that's high level competition. Able to beat Josiane Nunes as well, so a mutual opponent here for them. And then lost to Yana Santos, who's highly ranked, and lost to Jocelyn Edwards, who's highly ranked. Both these girls got knocked out by Jocelyn Edwards, but for the most part, Chelsea Chandler isn't getting knocked out. She survived against Norma Dumont and who was the other one? Yana Santos. And both of those girls are ranked top 5 at women's bantamweight, I believe. Priscilla Cachoeira just does not have a lot unless it's on the feet. And yeah, I will be scared for however long this fight's on the feet, but I do see Chelsea Chandler being able to take her down, bank control, and maybe even find a finish here. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick Chelsea Chandler to win by decision over Priscilla Cachoeira. But I don't really rate either of these girls, and I'll be kind of upset if I get these type of fights wrong because it's like, how are you supposed to predict something like this? How are you supposed to predict what will happen between two extremely low level women's bantamweights? And somehow these girls are ranked number 21 and 22 on Tapology. They might just need to get rid of women's bantamweight altogether. But yeah, I'm picking Chelsea Chandler by decision here. I'm not gonna trust Priscilla Cachoeira to get a vicious knockout. I just don't really see it here. Chelsea Chandler also, I think it doesn't show that she's much bigger, but she'll have a 3-inch reach advantage, 1-inch height advantage, and I just think she's a more filled out fighter in general. Moving on to Bruno Silva versus Edgar Chairez. This is one of my favorite fights on the whole card, and I'm not sure why they moved it to the prelims, because I think originally last week when I was checking this fight card out, this was the co-main event, and they've moved it all the way down to the prelims, and it might be the featured prelim because usually on fight nights it's going to be a 6-fight main card, but no, they put no this is a 6-fight main card. Never mind, they put Matt Schnell and Alessandro Costa on the main card over Bruno Silva, who's ranked, and Edgar Chairez, whose only 2 losses in the UFC are to Joshua Van and Tatsuro Taira. And in that fight with Joshua Van, you could say that he was grabbing the fence to keep himself up, but then after that he landed it was either spinning back fist or spinning elbow that kind of rocked Joshua Van, to be honest. So Edgar Chairez probably had a better performance against Joshua Van than Bruno Silva did, but I am having a hard time picking Edgar Chairez despite my bias for him. I really like Edgar Chairez because this fight against Felipe Bunes Um, Honestly, he struggled way more than I thought he would on the feet. Um, I kind of want to pick Edgar Chairez though. I didn't realize he had such a big reach advantage and a decent frame advantage in general. Edgar Chairez has a 5-inch reach advantage here, a 3-inch height advantage, and Bruno Silva. I don't know. I think I'm gonna stick with my Bruno Silva pick, which is what I was originally thinking, because this fight against Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson's another guy that probably even bigger than Edgar Chairez, and Bruno Silva more than held his own there. A lot of people were saying that Bruno Silva should have won this fight. I thought it was very close. Um, but before that, he was able to dominate and submit Hyun-Sung Park. People were overrating the hell out of Hyun-Sung Park. I remember picking Bruno Silva to win this fight and felt very vindicated when I did so. Before that, he got put away by Joshua Van in the third round. Before that, Manel Kape put him away. And then before that, he was able to finish Cody Durden after Cody Durden had a hot start. But we know that Cody Durden's not that bad, honestly. For a while, I was starting to think that Cody Durden was washed, but then he just went out there and put on a clinic on Jafel Filio. So decent win there. And then fighting the higher level comp, even though Edgar Chairez, like I said, his two losses are Joshua Ban and Tetsuro Taira, which is not listed. But he was able to knock down Tetsuro Taira and was able to hurt Joshua Van. So Edgar Chairez, I think this is a super close fight, honestly. I think this will be a 29-28, potentially split decision, unless someone gets put away. Um, I think Bruno Silva has a bit more finishing potential on the feet than Edgar Chairez. Um, but I think Edgar Chairez, I'm not sure. I'm really unsure on this one. This is one that I'm going back and forth on, and I haven't been able to watch enough tape to make a confident read yet. Because, like I said, I've been very busy with work. I work full time, doing pest control. So I work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and that just doesn't leave me a lot of time, or it doesn't leave me as much time as I would like to watch tape for these fights and get a video out to you guys. So yeah, again, I apologize if I switch my picks from what I'm saying in these videos, but it's just as I get closer to the fight, I start to sometimes I change my opinion, sometimes watching more tape will show me things that I like, and yeah, I I'm gonna lean Bruno Silva in this one to win by a close decision because Edgar Chairez will not get finished. I'm confident that Edgar Chairez won't get finished in this fight. I think if anyone's going to get a finish here, it'll be Edgar Chairez. Even though I said that Bruno Silva has the higher finishing potential on the feet, I do think that Edgar Chairez is maybe a little bit more well-rounded, and that might get it done for him. It's also worth mentioning that Edgar Chairez is about 7 years younger than Bruno Silva, and a 37-year-old flyweight will eventually run out of gas. So I feel like I'm kind of talking myself into picking Edgar Chairez, but for now I'm going to stick with Bruno Silva, and I'll let you know if I end up changing that one. I feel like that's probably the one that I'm most likely to switch besides the main event, but we'll get there later. And then this is our featured prelim of the night. We have Marcus McGee, former ranked bantamweight, taking on short notice John Yanis. And John Yanis coming off that win over Jamie Siraj, where I should have picked him. I should have picked him. I think Jamie Siraj is terrible, and I don't know why. I trusted the hype and I trusted what everyone else was saying and picked Jamie Siraj. But John Yanis smoked Jamie Siraj. Before that, he made his short notice debut up a weight class against Austin Bashi and got submitted there. But that's not terrible. He was able to get a win over Nick Aguirre and Fury. Decent performance here. Um, but um, Marcus McGee was on a 4-fight win streak at bantamweight and found himself in the rankings. He was able to get a submission win in his debut, a knockout here, knockout there, and then a decision win over Jonathan Martinez, which got him in the rankings. They then shot him up all the way to Piotr Jan, and he actually had a pretty good amount of success against Piotr Jan. If I'm not mistaken, I think he took a round, but that could be wrong. I think at least one or two of the judges gave him round one though. And yeah, he put up a pretty strong performance for himself, even in a loss here against Piotr Jan, who is the UFC bantamweight champion of the world. And this is a huge step down in competition, but it is worth noting that Marcus McGee was originally supposed to fight Jakub Viklach, and that would have been a more interesting fight. Um, I just think that obviously John Giannis's primary skill set is on the feet, and I just think Marcus McGee is a little bit better on the feet. I think John Giannis is underrated and will continue to find some success in the UFC at bantamweight, but I just think this was a poor decision for him to take this fight. Like, obviously, it's a huge opportunity for him, but I don't think it's going to pay off for him. I'm going to pick Marcus McGee here, and a lot of people are picking him by finish. I can see that happening, um, but I don't think it'll happen early. I think it'll happen late, if anything. I'm going to pick Marcus McGee by round two, round three knockout over John Giannis. Um, Probably round two, because Marcus McGee showed against Jonathan Martinez that he gassed a little bit. And yeah, but I think even if this fight goes to a decision, I think Marcus McGee will be able to bank 2 rounds on John Giannis. And I'm not gonna underrate John Giannis like I did against Jamie Siraj, because I think he actually is pretty good on the feet. He's a good boxer, but Marcus McGee also has a submission and semi decent grappling game. So I think Marcus McGee could honestly maybe even find a submission here if he's able to take John Giannis down, or if he's able to hurt him. It could be a club and sub situation. But yeah, enough of that. We're going with Marcus McGee. Opening up the main card, we have Ivo Berniewski versus Junior Tafa. And um, 93% of people are picking Ivo here. And I'm also going to be picking Ivo. But if this fight stays on the feet, it's definitely interesting because Junior Tafa is very dangerous on the feet. He was able to nearly finish Billy Elicana, but he was not able to get that one done. And he was able to finish Kevin Christian. But I'd be lying if I said I was super confident in him to win this one against Kevin Christian. And Kevin Christian is awful. So pretty much just based on that and the fact that he lost to Tuco Tokos, I am going to be picking Ivo Berniewski here. Ivo Berniewski, honestly, um, he has a judo background. That's his background. That was his martial art before he turned to MMA. But he hasn't really shown it much in his pro career at all. I think he has 2 wins by submission, which were his first 2 fights. And then since then, I think he's on a 5 or 6 fight knockout streak. And one of those came on the Contender Series last season, electric knockout over Muhammad Ali, and then 30-second war with Ivo, or not 30-second, a minute and 30-second war with Ivo Aslan, where both guys got dropped, but he was able to find the finish. And my main concern is that this fight will turn into a similar sort of brawl, because if that happens, it's really flip a coin. Both guys carry a ton of power on the feet. Both guys are good on the feet. And both guys kind of just throw without any regard for defense. But if Iwo decides to grapple here, which I really hope he does, because it'll make me breathe easy. I think he runs through Junior Tafa. And Iwo said in his last fight that he wanted to show grappling against Austin Lane, but he didn't get the chance to because he knocked out Austin Lane in 30 seconds. And I'm going to be picking Iwo here. I can honestly see him getting a submission. And I think I might pick Iwo Berniewski by a sneaky submission here in round one. And I don't think Berniewski has had a fight leave the first round in his pro career. And honestly, I think he'll be able to keep that up. Next fight on the card, we have Matt Schnell versus Alessandro Costa. And I don't want to just come up here and shit on Matt Schnell. Like, Matt Schnell's cool. He seems like a decent guy. But yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of winnable matchups for him at flyweight whatsoever. in the UFC. Um, Obviously, he's 1-4 in his last five, and I think this win is against Jimmy Flick in a pretty close fight against Jimmy Flick. But besides that, got finished by Mateus Nicolau, got finished by Steve Erceg, got finished by Cody Durden, and got finished by Joseph Morales. So, I don't want to completely disrespect Matt Schnell. He's a former ranked fighter. He has wins over Sumaderji, and that's basically it in terms of notable wins. But um, yeah, he'll be fighting Alessandro Costa. This one's a catchweight at 130 because Costa's stepping in on short notice. This was supposed to be Matt Schnell versus Imanol Rodriguez. I was going to pick Imanol Rodriguez to knock out Matt Schnell, and I'm also going to pick Alessandro Costa to knock out Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell's been finished 5 times in the UFC. No, not finished. He's been knocked out 5 times in the UFC, submitted 3 times. So finished 8 times in the UFC. And Alessandro Costa is a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he also has pretty wicked power on the feet for a flyweight, and he throws very hard. So I think if Alessandro Costa, not if, when Alessandro Costa is able to find the chin of Matt Schnell, it's gonna pretty much be wraps. Alessandro Costa is a guy that was able to actually finish Jimmy Flick instead of going into a close decision with him. He then lost to Steve Erceg by decision instead of getting finished by Steve Erceg. He's able to finish Kevin Borjas. Then he lost to Alton Correa, but Alton Correa is really good, and he kind of, I think a big part of the reason that he got finished in this fight is because he hurt his toe or foot really badly in the cage, and then he just kind of gave up after that. He didn't want to fight anymore. This fight with Stuart Nickel was a pretty impressive performance. He was able to finish him with the body shot in the second round. I actually got this pick perfect. I picked Alessandro Costa by round 2 knockout over Stuart Nickel, and that's exactly what happened. And this time I'm going to pick Alessandro Costa to win by knockout. Also in round 2. I'm going to say Matt Schnell survives a round, but I think Alessandro Costa will be able to find the chin and put Matt Schnell away. All right, our next fight on the card, we have Bryce Mitchell. Look at those beady blue eyes. And then Santiago Luna, the border boy. Now, originally, I was very confused when I saw the comment sections on some of the Instagram posts when this fight was announced, because it's basically everybody saying that Santiago Luna is gonna smoke Bryce Mitchell, and originally I was not buying that. Like I was not sold on that at all, and I'm still not sold on that. But I am gonna be picking Santiago Luna because I think what a lot of people forget or fail to realize is that Santiago Luna was um, actually sitting on an offer from Arizona State to go wrestle, and Arizona State is a Big 12 wrestling program, and yeah, I don't really think Bryce Mitchell's going to be able to out grapple or out wrestle Santiago Luna, because that's going to be Bryce Mitchell's game plan. He's obviously able to take down guys like Danny Gay. He's able to take down Said Nurmagomedov, who can't wrestle, and well, Kron Gracie was just pulling guard on him. But yeah, I don't trust Bryce Mitchell to be able to out wrestle Santiago Luna here. I think he'll kind of be stuck on the feet with Luna, and Luna just has much more to offer on the feet, in my opinion. So I am going to be picking Santiago Luna, and I'm going to pick him. I don't think it's crazy to pick Santiago Luna by decision here. So I'm going to be picking Santiago Luna by decision. But I could definitely see him getting a finish here over Bryce Mitchell. But he wasn't able to finish Angel Pacheco. I'm not sure what's convincing so many people that he's going to be able to finish Bryce Mitchell. I just think that Santiago Luna is a way more technical striker. He has more power, and Bryce will not be able to get this fight where he wants it. Luna also has a 4-inch reach advantage, and yeah, I'm going to be picking Santiago Luna in this one. I like him as an underdog. Probably, potentially my only underdog that I end up picking. All right, featured fight on the card. We have a fighter who I really like. I'm not going to say he's one of my favorite lightweights because I feel like in all my videos I say who my favorite lightweights are. And of all of my favorite lightweights, this is unrelated, by the way. Drew Dober's my favorite. Then we'll probably go Chris Padilla. Then probably Evan Elder. But Fares Ziam's up there as well. Fares Twigman Ziam. Shout out Lucas Tracy. Um, Ziam has grown on me a lot. And the fight that he was able to do that for me was this Matt Frivola knockout. Before this, I was um, significantly underrating for SZM, and then he was able to get the knockout here. This was a nasty, disgusting knockout of the year over Matt Frivola, and then he was also able to beat Mike Davis, who I think is very good and underrated, and then he was able to dominate and finish Nazim Sadikov when a lot of people were trying to convince me that Nazim Sadikov was going to run through for SZM. I didn't buy it. I picked for SZM, and I once again felt vindicated by doing so. And he's going to be fighting against Tom Nolan here. This is the battle of the frames. For SZM, 6'1", 75-inch reach, and Tom Nolan 6'2" with a 73-inch reach. Both these guys fighting at 155, which is a bit crazy, but both guys are pretty skinny, pretty lanky, and Tom Nolan's on a 4-fight win streak right now. He lost in his debut to Nicholas Mata. He actually got dropped by Victor Martinez somehow, which is insane because Victor Martinez is terrible. And then he took Alex Reyes to decision. I kind of forgot about that. Took Borshev to decision, and then he was able to get a finish here over Charlie Campbell. This was an impressive performance from him, but he has not been fighting anybody near the level of Fares Ziam. Like, even Mata lost to Nazim Sadikov, and Ziam made easy work of Nazim Sadikov, able to finish him in round 3. But yeah, I am gonna confidently pick Fares Ziam here is what I'm trying to get at. And I also kind of like Ziam by knockout here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to pick Fares Ziam by late knockout like he was able to do in his last fight. Fares Ziam's on a nice win streak at lightweight, and I think he's ranked number 14 or 15 right now. I'm not sure why he's fighting Tom Nolan when he's coming off a win over Frivola, Davis, and Sadikov. I think this is a bit of weird matchmaking, but I also wouldn't be surprised if some of the guys ahead of Ziam in the rankings do not want to fight him because even though Ziam might have a little bit of weakness on the ground, we saw in the Terrence McKinney fight, McKinney was able to submit him in the first round early. He's improved so much since then, and he's getting better every fight. And that Nazim Sadikov performance was extremely impressive to me, like I've said a couple times now. But I am going to be picking for SZM to get this one done. I think he's better on the inside. I think Tom Nolan will have to try and keep this one at range, but I think Fares Ziam has the much better dirty boxing. He has the much better clinch work. He has the much better elbows and the knees. Even though Tom Nolan matches up really well in frame, I don't think his skill level is there yet. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think he's fought the level of competition needed to be able to go into deep waters with someone like Fares Ziam. So I think this is kind of early KO or bust for Tom Nolan, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ziam will make this one a bit of a dogfight, and then be able to finish Tom Nolan late. All right, our co-main event of the evening, we have Brendan Allen versus Edmund Shabazian. And speaking of weird matchmaking, like I talked about for Fares Ziam versus Tom Nolan, I failed to mention how Bryce Mitchell versus Santiago Luna was short notice, but otherwise that would also be a bit weird matchmaking. This was supposed to be Bryce Mitchell versus Victor Henry. I was going to pick Bryce Mitchell, but I'm now switching that, and I'm going to pick Santiago Luna. But back to the point. Brendan Allen's ranked number 4, I believe, at middleweight. And then Shabazian's unranked. But Brendan Allen, since losing to Imavov and Hernandez, both these fighters he took a round off, by the way. He was able to beat Vettori, and this was not a very impressive performance against Vettori. It was a bit closer than you would like it to be against Vettori. But he was able to get the win there, and then pretty impressive performance here against Rainer de Ritter, where he was able to make Rainer de Ritter quit. And I think this is honestly pretty straightforward. Like, Edmund Shabazian is a very dangerous round 1 fighter, but after that, besides against like Andre Petrosky, he'll start to fade. not even 2 years ago, he got submitted by Gerald Meerschaert, but since then he was able to finish Dylan Budka, which is not a good win. He was able to beat Andre Petrosky by decision, but how good of a look is that when Cody Brundage is able to finish Andre Petrosky and Edmund Shabazian isn't? And then he was able to finish Andre Muniz, who I also don't think is very good. So this 3-fight win streak for Edmund Shabazian is honestly very low level competition, and now they're shooting him up to Brendan Allen, and I don't think it's gonna go well for him. I I'm obviously gonna be a little bit worried for Brendan Allen in round one early when this one's on the feet, but I just think Brendan Allen has proved to be durable enough to survive this. Like I don't know if Brendan Allen's been finished since Sean Strickland. I could be wrong. I could be forgetting um, a finished loss for Brendan Allen, but I don't think I am. And then yeah, I just don't think Edmund's going to be able to put him away early, and I think Brendan Allen will wear him down, tire him out with his grappling, and I don't know. It is worth mentioning that Brandon Allen has really poor fight IQ, but I think this is a no-brainer. I don't even think you need to have any fight IQ to know that you should be taking Edmund Shabazian down and wearing him out. And I think he'll eventually be able to find a submission on the ground after landing a lot of ground and pound on Edmund Shabazian. But yeah, round two or three submission for Brendan Allen. I'm going to pick round two. And that's another fairly confident pick for me. I think the odds here are honestly, no, they've inflated a little bit, but before this, I think they were a bit of a discount on Brendan Allen. All right, and then we get to our main event of the evening, and honestly, I'm going to be completely transparent in this fight. I do not know who to pick. Um, I really don't. It's either, but the way that I see this fight is I think it's, if you're picking Gabriel Bonfim to win, you almost have to pick him to win within 3 rounds, or even probably 2 rounds. Because if a fight goes into round three or even late round two, Gabriel Bonfim starts to fade. Um, Obviously, that's what happened against Nicholas Dalby. He was a huge favorite against Dalby and then pretty much just quit in round two and got finished there. And then gassed in round three against Ange Lusa, but he was able to beat Ange Lusa. Um, Able to submit Chaos Williams, which was a decent win. Good performance from him. Being completely straight up, I thought he lost to Wonder Boy. I thought Wonder Boy won round two and three, but Gabriel Bonfim won this fight kind of by holding Wonder Boy against the cage and not doing a whole lot with it. But like I said, I thought that Wonder Boy won this fight, and I think it's a shame that they robbed Wonder Boy because now Wonder Boy's on a 3-fight losing streak. And after that, good performance here against Randy Brown. I was overrating Randy Brown. I picked Randy Brown to win this fight. But yeah, I was overrating Randy Brown, and I need to stop doing that because I also picked Randy Brown to beat Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland was able to pretty much shut him out as well. So, not a great win here against Randy Brown, but a good performance nonetheless. Ange Lusa, not a great win. Stephen Thompson's a good win, but I don't think he won the fight. And then Chaos Williams is a decent win, but I think it's on a similar level as like a Randy Brown, because Randy Brown and Chaos Williams had a super close fight. And then on the other side, we have Bilal Muhammad. I think it's also, hold on, I think it's also worth mentioning that Gabriel Bonfim has only ever been to decision twice in his career, and he's obviously won both of those fights. And it was Ange Lusa and Stephen Thompson. I thought he lost to Stephen Thompson, and he gassed. And he gassed against Ange Lusa, but still able to win. Bilal Muhammad, former UFC champion, I do think he's slowing down in his career. Able to knock out Sean Brady on the feet, though, which is really impressive. And then the Gilbert Burns fight, not a super great performance there from Bilal, but he's able to find these wins. Able to beat Leon Edwards 49-46, 48-47. I'm not mad with either scorecard. Then he lost to Jack Della Maddalena. I did pick JDM to beat him, which isn't aging super well, but JDM's only lost to Islam and Carlos Prates, so I don't think that's terrible either. and then he lost to Ian Gary. And the Ian Gary fight's what kind of scares me against Bilal Muhammad, or with Bilal Muhammad fighting Gabriel Bonfim, because Gabriel Bonfim and Ian Gary, honestly, I draw a lot of comparisons between the two, and Ian Gary was able to cut open Bilal's face within like a minute of this fight, like probably less than a minute. And I thought Gary won that fight 30-27. Um, but Gary and Bonfim are not the same. Like I know that I draw a lot of comparisons, but one comparison you can't draw between Ian Gary and Gabriel Bonfim is cardio. And I think if this fight leaves round two, like I said at the beginning of this breakdown, um, Gabriel Bonfim will be in a lot of trouble because um, even as recently as the Wonder Boy fight, we've seen him slow down. And that fight was maybe a year ago. Yeah, not even a year ago. Against Wonder Boy, he's slowing down. And this isn't super relevant because it was a while ago, but Bilal Muhammad was able to like 30-25 Stephen Thompson. I just think the level of competition is so drastically different. And yeah, it's either Gabriel Bonfim by round one or two knockout, or Bilal Muhammad will win this one by decision or late finish. I'm gonna lean Bilal Muhammad by not late finish, by decision, but I can totally see the argument for Gabriel Bonfim to win this fight. I just think he's a bit overrated, honestly, and um, yeah, Gabriel Bonfim's path to victory here is with leg kicks and well, that's the main thing. But I don't think Bilal's going to get finished. Bilal's only been finished once in his career, and it was when he got finished early by Vicente Luque. So if that doesn't happen here, I don't see that happening here against Gabriel Bonfim. Um, I think I think after round two, the scales heavily tip in Bilal Muhammad's favor. So right now, I'm tentatively picking Bilal Muhammad, but I could be potentially convinced to pick Gabriel Bonfim, and I might convince myself to do so. But for now, we're rocking with Bilal Muhammad. All right, we're going to go over quick picks and wrap this one up. I have Ketlin Souza to win this fight by decision. Um, Pretty high confidence there. Gisela Chavez to win this one by decision. Honestly, like low to medium confidence, just because I I'd be lying if I said I watched any regional tape of either of these fighters. I've just seen what Chavez did on the Contender Series, and then I saw what Dubin did on the Contender Series in her debut. But I'm picking Gisela Chavez. I've liked what I've seen more. Picking Brito to win this one by brutal finish. Um, but I can see the arguments for Jordan Levitt. I won't be mad if you're picking Jordan Levitt. I'm gonna pick Chelsea Chandler by decision. Very low confidence because this fight sucks. Bruno Silva by decision. Super low confidence. I might talk myself into picking Edgar Chairez, but we will see. Marcus McGee with medium to high confidence here against John Giannis. I'm respecting John Giannis, but I don't wanna overly respect John Giannis or fence sit. I'm picking Marcus McGee, picking Iwo Barniewski to win by submission, um, picking Alessandro Costa to finish Matt Schnell, fork found in drawer. Matt Schnell gets knocked out. I'm gonna pick Santiago Luna as my underdog to beat Bryce Mitchell. I think the wrestling is a very underrated factor here and people aren't really considering how good of a wrestler Santiago Luna is. I did forget to mention when breaking down Santiago Luna, um, he beat Quang Lee. I really like Quang Lee. I hope the UFC gives Quang Lee another chance, because Quang Lee came in the UFC on short notice, took a round off Chris Gutierrez, but lost that fight. Then Quang Lee lost to Long Zhao. He was able to submit Gaston Bolaños and then lost to Santiago Luna. So the level of competition that Quang Lee was losing to, um, pretty high, and I really liked Quang Lee. So I hope they'll give him another chance. But I don't think he's even fought since being released from the UFC. Unrelated side tangent over. I'm picking Fares Diam with moderate to high confidence to beat Tom Nolan. And then same thing here for Brendan Allen over Edmund Shabazian, moderate to high confidence. Low to medium confidence for Bilal Muhammad to beat Gabriel Bonfim. This is more of a, I think Gabriel Bonfim's overrated and will gas out than anything. But if he's improved his cardio, or if he just comes out there with a great game plan and finishes Bilal Muhammad, I won't be terribly surprised, but Bilal Muhammad's very durable. So that's kind of why I'm leaning Bilal Muhammad. Um, I understand some of the hype around Gabriel Bonfim, but I also don't at the same time. Especially when you go and watch that Wonder Boy fight. And yeah, that'll do it for me today. Thank you guys so much for commenting, for liking, for subscribing to my videos. Like I said, sorry this one's a bit late. I'll try and get them out earlier. And I know I've been teasing the recap videos, I've been teasing the short form videos for a couple of videos now, but that will be coming eventually. I just need to I need to find more time in my schedule to make stuff like that because right now I get home from work and I'm very tired and want to go to sleep. But I will find more time for that. And yeah, I hope you guys appreciate the content and keep showing me support because I really appreciate all of you who take the time to listen to what I have to say. I think it's really cool. But that'll do it for me. I will see you guys soon.